In this video we're going to use and install brushes. Although the name of the assignment says install and use brushes, we are not necessarily going to do it in that order. First we're going to find a brush to use, and then we'll find one to download and install. So let's get started by first creating a file. I'm clicking on the file menu and saying file new. I'm not going to use the web option as I have before. Instead, I'm going to either stick to default Photoshop size or just pick anything else that's not in the web category. You can use US paper, international paper, photo, or default photo size is fine. 7x5 is your standard photo size when you go and get them printed. If you still get them printed, I don't think you, well, some people may still get film developed. I'm going to change the resolution from 300 down to 100. I'll keep everything else pretty much the same. I could change the background content to transparent, although I'm going to keep it white just for now. I'm going to click OK, and a new document will be appearing shortly. Now that I have a blank document to work with, I might choose to come in a little bit closer. I can press Ctrl-0 on my keyboard. It's Command-0 for you Apple users. You could also go into your view menu and say view fit on screen. If you want it 100%, Control-1 is the shortcut. Control-0 is fine. I think Control-1 will work for now. We're not going to be getting too crazy about this. I'm going to use the brush menu, or rather the brush tool. We have been using brushes with other tools all this time. We just haven't really been drawing anything with them. We've been using brushes to make selections, to pick up colors, to replace colors, things like that. The actual brush tool is this one. It's right below the Band-Aid icon, and it's the brush tool. You could have pressed the letter B to go there. It's now active, and just like many of the tools we used before, we get the actual brush palette on top. This is going to be where we change our properties for brushes. We have changed the size of brushes before. We have changed the hardness and sizes. We have changed modes, and to a certain degree, I think at least the live classes have used the flow. There will be a new assignment being uploaded soon where you can use the flow settings. I'm going to make my brush a little bit larger. I can click on my down arrow by the brush properties and just go 35. Seems to be a little bit too big for what I want to do, which is not really much, but 13 is just not enough either. I'm just going to settle with 20. Hardness is currently at 0, so if I were to draw anything, it would be very, very fluffy. It would be kind of like a spray paint doing the painting. I'm going to take the hardness to 100. I'll click anywhere outside of the box, and that will give me use of my brush. Before I brush anything, I do have my brush selected. I want to make sure that the color on my palette in the foreground color is set to something that will actually show up on the screen. So my background is currently white. My palette says that my foreground color is black. And I could pick another color if I wanted to, just by clicking on the foreground color. I could get a red if I wanted. I'll click OK. Make sure that new color shows what you want. Current tells you what the old one is. I'll click OK, and now I have a red foreground color. I'm just going to hold the mouse down and drag along, and I can draw certain things. And I'm not very imaginative right now, so I'm just going to the CD, and that's why we pay people to do this. And I can draw this. I can draw a little happy face, just little things like that. But using this brush is not really that exciting, at least not right now, not while I'm doing it, not while I'm doing just this. You could variate the you could change the brush to look like something else. We could change the opacity, we could change the mode, but most importantly, we can change the brush. If I click again on my down arrow, we have been concentrating a lot on the size and the hardness, but there's more stuff below that. I'm going to find the bottom right of the box of this palette and just drag it out. And I see that I have a lot more options other than just my regular brush. These are not the only additional brushes that are available to Photoshop users. Photoshop comes with a variety of them. If you click on the gear on the top right, you'll see that there are more options here. There are assorted brushes. There's basic brushes, which I do believe these are it. Calligraphic brushes, DP brushes, drop shadow brushes, etc. I'm going to click outside of that box just to be sure that I'm not clicking anywhere else inside the box. Now all this time I've been drawing in the one background, and as you know, Photoshop has layers that we can construct and bring up, and then we can remove certain elements, we can add more elements, we can play around with the image. If I wanted to just change my brush color to white, then I could just paint on top of that. It would be similar as an eraser. However, this is kind of long and tedious, and why bother with all that when I have layers that I can just find the bottom right, the second from the right, create a new layer. I'll click on that. Layer 1 appears. It's transparent, but I can easily fill it up with white. I can use my edit menu and say fill, and rather than using the foreground color, which is already white, yes, but I'm going to choose white anyway and click OK. Now my layer is gone, or at least it seems to have disappeared, but it's still there. It's layer 1 and it's filled with white. I can turn off the eyeball, and then the visibility just makes it clear that there's something below that, or in this case behind it. I'm going to bring it back so that layer 1 is still visible, and so that I don't have to think about this too much more, I'm going to click on yet another new layer. It's going to be called layer 2. Photoshop is naming them automatically since I don't have a layer 0, or I have not removed layer 1 or renamed them. It'll just keep on adding layers as you keep on going. If you end up with 10 layers or more, you might want to consider renaming the layers so that you can find what you've done and go back and find your place easily. Now that I have layer 1 blocking my background, and I have a new transparent layer, then anything that I draw on this new layer will stay in this transparency. I'm going to switch back from the white and red into a black and white by clicking on the small icon there. That'll reset the colors to default background colors and background colors. As you see, I'm going to just redraw again. I can undo anything here really quick. Edit and undo brush tool. And rather than keep on using the same brush, I'm going to select one of the brushes that I just mentioned. I'm going to click on the down arrow again, and just for kicks, I'm going to go for 134. This is the same thing as the older video, and this is the grass brush. At first it doesn't show me what the brush is going to look like, not until I start to draw it. I know that my size was not particularly large when I last used this. One thing that I do know for sure is that I don't want to use the color black to draw grass. I want to change it to green or something else, so I'm clicking again on my foreground color. Inside the rolling palette, I'll find the green in the area. I'll click on one of these greens. This is as green as my grass is at home right now. Winter has done nothing to it or the weeds. I'm going to click on the background and change the white into another kind of green, because these brushes, once they start to paint, they will actually start to mix in not just the foreground color, but it will bring in the background color and give you a variety of shades throughout the grass. And what I mean by that is that now that I have the colors, I can click once and then just sort of hold the mouse down and drag it, and you'll see that the brush is no longer just spray painting as if it were a spray can on a wall. Rather, it's painting different blades of grass. I can use the bracket keys. Those are the two bracket keys next to the P. The left bracket will make it smaller, right bracket will make it larger. This is the same thing that's going on. You may have seen the numbers change in the top left. Now I have blades that are up to 400 pixels tall or wide or both. I'm going to make them smaller. I don't need that much tall grass. And I'm just going to keep on drawing a couple more blades here and there. That may be a lot of grass, but since I'm drawing it on a separate layer, I can always use the move tool. That's the very top tool on top, and just sort of drag this down. I'm on layer 2, so all of that stuff just sort of went down. I can now create a new layer. I can change my shades of green to something else, and on another new layer, I'm going to create more grass. Let me go back to the brush and just sort of flash a couple things here and there. Now that I've got enough grass, and this looks like the dangerous part of my backyard, I'm going to go for yet another layer. Now I have 5 layers at least, and I'm going to use another brush. I'll click back on the arrow to see my selection. I'm going to click number 74 here. This is the maple leaf, and click outside so that it's now selected. I can see the shape of the maple leaf floating along. I don't want to draw a green maple leaf. I want it to be more of a, I guess, a fall setting. So I'll click on my green. I'll find my darker yellows at the bottom. Get me a nice orangey color. Click OK. And then do the same thing for the background color. Something that tends to be more orange and maybe a little bit brown. And I'll make it just a little bit larger, and I want to be a little bit more careful with this particular one, because if I click and drag just a little bit, I'm going to get 1,000. I'm going to get the whole tree being blown off of its leaves. I'm going to press Ctrl Z to undo, so I'm just going to click once, twice, and just get some scattered leaves all the way around. And that should do it there. So now I have a lot of I have an unkempt backyard. I have a lot of grass. I have maple leaves flying in the wind, and yet I live, I guess, under the sun because the sky is completely white. I'm going to then create yet another layer, but not necessarily where I am right now. I want to go all the way to the bottom, just above the background, and actually just above the layer 1, because I do believe that that's my white layer. So I'll stick to layer 1 for now. If you don't have anything above the background, or if you didn't paint that layer 1 or you deleted it, you can probably just click on the background. I'm going to stick on the last or the bottom visible layer, and then click on create a new layer to get a blank layer on top of that one. That's layer 6 here, and it named it 6 even though it didn't go in order, but it doesn't matter because we can change the order at any time. So as to give me a little bit of a sky background, I'm going to pick another color. I'll click on my foreground color and choose sort of a sky blue, a little bit of a light blue there, baby blue. And for the background, I'm going to maybe pick a little bit of a darker blue. Now, why am I picking 2 colors? I'm going to show you another tool that we haven't used before, and it was not part of this original assignment, but we've been using it in the live class, so I wanted to show the online folks as well that if you find the tool just below the eraser, there is the gradient tool. You could have pressed G to go there. I'm going to click on it. You'll see at the top left that it will start painting this light blue, and then it'll go on to a darker blue. And the way that works is that on a transparent layer especially, if you click and drag and you sort of do a path for the color to follow, it will bring in the color from the baby blue to the darker blue. And you can sort of paint over that and then just sort of, and you can end up with a sort of a dusky looking sky background. At the same time, or rather right after this, I can't do 2 things at the same time. I'm going to create yet another layer, and I'm very layer happy, I know, but that's the way Photoshop works. I'm going to click for another color. I'm going to get me something like sort of brownish so that I can have a little bit of earth behind the grass. I'm going to pick that brown, and I'm going to get me maybe another shade of brown, maybe a little bit darker than that. I don't know which one I'm going to use. They're pretty similar. So rather than, I'm going to use the same tool to blend in the earth behind it. But rather than going from one color to another, I'm going to tell it to go from this one color, the brown, to transparency. I'm clicking on the down arrow next to the gradient icon, and it's showing me that I can go from brown to nothing, and that's those checkerboard backgrounds, that just tells you you can go from foreground to transparent. Now that I have that selection made, I can click from the bottom and sort of go up a little bit, maybe before I get to halfway up the picture. And I didn't accept it, so I'm pressing Control Z to undo it. I'm going to click on that again. I'm going to click on that. Now I see the transparency appear. And that's what happens when you record live. I'm going to just do it from several angles. And unlike the other one that we did from one shade of blue to another, because this only goes to a transparency, you have to sort of know where the color is going. If I wanted to, I could have the earth come from above, because it's only going to a transparent color or lack of color. I'm pressing Control Z to undo that. And at this point, I have used an existing brush. By that I mean I've used the blades of grass, and I've used the maple leaves. I've also used a gradient tool to bring in this color to the sky and color to the earth as well. Finally, just because this is the name of the exercise after all, it's use and install, I'm going to download a filter. And while I used to give out links to multiple filters, I find that a lot of people just have a tendency to find the viruses. So I'm giving you this direct link. This is actually stored at El Centro College Computing. If you click on the cloud brushes that are included in the resources just after this video, which is not this video, it's the one I'm recording right now, I'll click on cloud brushes. This is originally from deviantart.com. You might want to go to that site at some time, and just be careful where you click, because they like to sell stuff. They have a lot of great resources, but it's full of advertising. And I'm going to maybe download this to my desktop. I'll click on Save. And this is a zip file. If you're using a Mac, then you shouldn't have any problems with this, because all you gotta do is double click it, and it'll just release it to your desktop or wherever your files go to be downloaded. Here, however, since I'm using Chrome, I'm going to click on the right arrow, or rather the drill to the right of the downloaded file, show it in my folder. See that I have Cloud Brushes by Javier ZHX. And if you double click to see the file, this will do nothing. And please don't, no more emails, no more calls that you can't open the file. This is what you did wrong. You ought to try to open it, and then nothing happened. So I'm going to go back. I hope you didn't double click it like that. And if you did, please press the back arrow to get back to it. You can right click in Windows and say extract all. This works, by the way, in every version of Windows after Windows Vista. You should be on Windows 10, I recommend it. Click Extract. And now here's a new folder called Cloud Brushes by Javier ZX. Be sure that you're clicking on the folder and not on the zip file. The zip file's got that little zipper right there. This one has no zipper. I'll double click to open the folder. I see this file. You'll see at the right here, it tells you that this is an ABR file. That stands for Adobe Brush File. Double click to open it, or rather to activate it, because all that happens is that Photoshop opens. However, a great deal of things happen with that, and that is that not only did it open the file and read the contents, it opened up Photoshop and said, hey, you know, you have all these neat brushes tucked away in your brush tool, which I'll click again to reload. I'm going to click on the drill to see what I have, and I'll see at the very bottom I now have some brushes that start out with number 663 and they go all the way to 478. What do the numbers mean? I don't know. They're never the same, or they're always the same, or they're always in order, or they're never in order. What I'm trying to say is I guess they're just completely random. Surely they mean something, but I don't know what that is. I'm going to click on layer 6 because that's where my sky currently resides. When I do that, I can click on create a new layer. And I don't want to have necessarily brown clouds, although I'm sure I've seen plenty. I did live in West Texas. I'm going to click on my selection of filters, or rather of brushes. At the very bottom I have a variety of clouds. Let's see number 663. I'll click on that and just sort of hover on top, and you'll see that this is going to be a big cloud. So I'll click outside of the image just to make sure that nothing happens. I'm going to change my colors from foreground, which is currently brown, to white. I'm just going to click and drag all the way to the top left, and my new color will be white once I click OK. My background, just in case the brush demands it, I'm going to make it a light blue, so it maybe blends a little bit with the background. That is the sky. I'm going to click OK, and I'm just going to click once, and there my cloud appears. It looks like this was actually made from a photograph. Now I could make another cloud that looks the same or is smaller by clicking on the left bracket, but since they gave me what seems to be at least 8 or 9 different clouds, I'm going to pick another one. I'll see what this one looks like, and it's going to be a small cloud. I'll put it up here. Even if it exceeds the size of the window, I'll click there, and I'll do one more, maybe number 676, and I'll add this last one up here. So now, without much effort and by using brushes that were already included in Photoshop, that is the maple leaf and the grass blades, plus the gradient tool, which allowed us to draw a sky and then a little piece of earth, we completed the scene by downloading a brush that was programmed by somebody, or rather scanned and then put into the system by somebody else. In the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to create your own brushes. They might not be as fancy as the cloud, but maybe we'll try that later.